quite a kind of provocative title, I think, probably. Maybe it's not. And so, yeah, I should just start with it, shouldn't I?
Yeah, you should have stuck with provocative.
Yeah. So yeah, what is the point of Liverpool? And well, it's kind of, it's a city, and what's kind of good about that is that the cities are small enough that you can make a change. You can change how they do things, especially if you've got people like Gary kind of wandering around, kicking people up the arse and trying to get them to do some stuff differently. I mean, your disruption stuff kind of fits in quite nicely, hopefully, to some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. And so cities are small enough that you can kind of make them do things differently. But they're also big enough that if what you've done differently works and is interesting, then you can kind of affect the country or even the world. I mean, it wouldn't be the first time that this city has come up with some ideas that have changed the world. And that's how all of these sort of change things work. Well, they don't really, it's not a full city. It's usually a kind of a smaller group within the city who listen to some crazy guy who's kind of suggesting there's different ways of doing things. Which is handy though, because I haven't got the whole city in here, but I don't actually have all the answers and ideas about kind of what better ways of doing things are. But it's something that I kind of think about a lot, and get into big rambling discussions with Gary and waste half day when I should have been doing some work. Trying to kind of think around these things. Anybody who's kind of like chat to me in a pub or something will no doubt kind of crop across some of this stuff. And so I don't know kind of what we need to do differently and things, but I'm making a start on some of what the questions are. So there are some of the big things. Obviously, the economy is all shit, and it's going to stay that way for a long while, apparently. And then there's climate change, and I thought this was a nicer photo than the usual kind of global warming sort of stuff, just to kind of remind us, like, that's the first picture we had of this, the Earthrise photo from NASA, first time we saw the world. And then there's unemployment and things, which this is off one of the government council's websites and things. So we're running about 40% unemployment in Liverpool. So there are loads of people who don't have jobs. And there are even kind of signs in some of the, like in America and stuff, where when the economy's picking up, the jobs aren't necessarily coming back with it. And it's kind of like there are companies that are doing well, but they certainly don't need to employ those people. It's like we don't have to employ thousands of people down at the docks anymore, yet Seaforth sees kind of more stuff through it than the docks ever did at the height of the kind of what you would seem to be like Liverpool's dominance as a port. And we've also got problems with kind of skill based on what 17% of people in Liverpool at kind of working age don't have any qualifications at all. And so that's kind of, it's a problem, but at the same time, I guess in some ways all this stuff's kind of an opportunity. There's loads of people out there. There's a big untapped resource that we have in this city of people who could do things and aren't doing things at the moment. And if we can find interesting ways for them to do something, then like suddenly we've got loads of people who are ready to kind of do that, and it scales. It scales quite well. And there are kind of problems, I think, some of that with kind of career options, going back to some of the kind of traditionally you'd have had, the docks and more people employed in manufacturing and things like that, where you could start off, you could come out of school without really any qualifications and you get a job as an apprentice or something, and you kind of work away, and that might be all you do. But if you were good and you showed an aptitude for it, you might not have been any good at school, but because you knew how to kind of use a lathe or something, or you picked all that up because you were interested in it, then there was a kind of career progression. And it feels a bit like we've got kind of like parallel track careers available in Liverpool. There's sort of, there's a sort of retail track where you can go and do retailing type stuff, or you can maybe be in a call centre track or something where you can kind of go and work in a call centre on a Wavertree type park or something. And then there's one that kind of council loves, which is the digital creative track, where all the kind of that's where all else is going to come from. And it's not easy to kind of get between one to another. There aren't those kind of paths anymore through things, or at least not formally. I mean, you get people who teach themselves things and kind of pick stuff up, and that's one of the nice things about tech and computing is that there are as many people who don't have any formal qualifications in computing as there are qualifications producing. So it's a bit more open, and there are some downsides to that, but on the whole, I think it's a good thing. So, have I got any answers? Maybe, but more importantly, do you have any answers? Because it's not just about me, it's about what we're going to do to kind of solve these problems. Because the thing is that if we don't work out what the ideas are and kind of where we're going to, how we're going to solve this, where we're going to find employment for people, how we're going to grow Liverpool's economy, if that's what we need to do, or work out different ways of doing stuff, there are plenty of other people who are making plans about what should happen to us and how these things work. One of them, Tesco, opening more and more shops. Unfortunately, you can't actually quite see. There is that's the Tesco Express logo just under there, because that's Gold Street, obviously, and Christian's fruit thing, which I don't know if you've heard of the Tesco thing, which sort of quite amusing. Took a photo of it, it seemed to fit nicely with this slide. And of course, inward investment is going to save us all, but it just feels to me like inward investment and things like Liverpool Innovation Park, we've been trying that for kind of 30 years, where we build this big scheme and then we'll begin to attract these huge companies like Microsoft will come or something and Google, and it'll be great and everyone will kind of have happy days. And it's like, well, we've been doing that for 30 years and no one seems to have turned up yet. So either it's just about to happen, or maybe it's not, and we should try something different and kind of start relying on ourselves rather than on somebody else. But that's the big spin with Peel Waters. It's kind of, the innovation park didn't work, but obviously that's because really it's just a bit inland and it's not in a particularly nice site, and it's not big enough. So what we really need to do is we need to get just lots more skyscrapers and make a massive thing on the river, because the river's nice. And it's sorts out all the northern docks and brings in apparently 25,000 jobs now, which has gone up 5,000 jobs from the start of the year. So great, we're kind of it's even better. And it was really disheartening because Seven Streets local blog had an article about UNESCO and the World Heritage stuff. I mean, you can just about see the live building there, which kind of gives you a bit of sense of kind of how it's just going to be sort of dwarfed by it all. And then there was somebody commented on the Seven Streets article who kind of said, well, real fact it's Peel or nothing. And that's really, really depressing, I thought. That's it? We've just got to just sit back and kind of go, well, yeah, give Peel everything they want, because that's our only bet. And, well, I don't know, I mean, that's it. The other options, well, we could speed into the wide economy and go and sort of try and build up Liverpool One and hope we can sell enough kind of expensive things to wags and footballers and stuff, and then maybe some of that will trickle down and we'll be able to get retail jobs, or work kind of selling people stuff in the tourist shops. I mean, at least the wags generally tend to kind of support local companies with their Range Rovers. And actually, inward investment, it's just, I don't think it's going to work. I think the only real growth is going to come when we stop waiting for the powers that be and the council and local vision and all these kind of grand people. Stop waiting for them to save us and start kind of saving ourselves.
Who are your sponsors again, sorry? Don't know.
There's a whole slide at the end. So I thought I'd kind of present the vision of the future. And because it's a vision of the future, it will be like all visions of the future, in that it will be wrong. And it will probably be wrong in major, kind of really laughable ways, if I ever go back and look at it when I get to the point of the future. Why did I ever think we were going to get those jetpacks? And I don't have any kind of flashy sort of fly-through videos that you'd get if you were, if it was Peel who were kind of be talking to you, because I don't have any money to commission those sorts of things. But I do have a camera, so I took a few photos. And then you're just going to have to use your imaginations as I kind of talk you through some stuff. So just imagine, and I know that this is taken on a kind of grey November afternoon, but just imagine that it's a kind of summer's morning, kind of quite warm, in 2015. So I just wandered down the hill from where I'm living, and I'm sat outside here at a little kind of cafe table, checking my email, and having like a morning espresso. And then just as I'm kind of finishing off my coffee, one of the waiters comes over to kind of collect the espresso cup, and he's kind of come from the Rat coffee shop, which is just across the road in the old Baxi Rat pub, because that's kind of like been regenerated. So there's a nice little coffee shop in there. Some of the guys who used to work at Bolstry Coffee kind of struck out on their own, and they've got a nice little coffee shop. So yeah, say hello to him because I do that regularly. And then I kind of walk around the corner and go in through the doors into Does Liverpool. The Does Liverpool building. And it will look like that in a minute. And as I sort of swipe in with my RFID card, the door tells me, like, oh, there's a reminder for you, you should go and chat to the web design guys. So it's like, okay, that's cool. So instead of going into the sort of the ground floor where there's just lathes and 3D printers and laser cutters and CNC mills, all sorts of interesting bits of kit, and loads of artists and little product design group people and hobbyists, and all real kind of mix of people kind of working away on things. But I don't go into there, I head up the stairs onto the first floor, go and chat to the web design guys, because they're redesigning the McEwen Limited website, which is my company. And the first floor isn't quite as messy as the ground floor is. There's a lot more desks, a lot more like kind of just Liverpool is next door, and a lot more people working on laptops, but it's not entirely people working on laptops. There's a few open plan areas, and in one corner there's some people soldering up some circuit boards, and one of the conference rooms has just got loads of like bits of blue prototyping foam as people are kind of working out prototypes for a new product that they're designing. So I have a chat with the web design guys, kind of okay the latest ideas. And then I head further up to my desk, just on the top floor, because McEwen Limited has got the top floor of the Does Liverpool building, and a bit of the sort of floor below. And we kind of, it's a bit of a permeable sort of boundary work between the two entities. But basically, my company's expanded, and I've got a whole kind of floor full of people doing product design and designing kind of connected devices and the Internet of Things, sorts of physical computing, stuff like that. Things like Buglino, who sat still kind of on a little shelf of things, but now he's surrounded by even more products that we've developed over the kind of intervening years, and we kind of build stuff like that and sort of ship it out around the world. So as I sit down at my desk, there's one of my project leads, mobile phone goes off, and it's the factory saying like, oh, those PCBs, prototypes you wanted doing, they're kind of ready now, so come pick them up whenever you want. And she's been waiting for them, set them up a couple of days ago. So it's okay, cool, come get them now. Grabs her stuff, heads down, kind of jumps on the Does Liverpool cargo bike, and kind of heads out of the building off to the factory. 10 minutes later, she kind of pulls up at the factory and kind of goes in to pick up these PCBs that she's had made. And most of the work is mechanised these days. Inside there it's just crammed full of CNC mills and PCB making machines, pick and place robots to lay out all the electronic components, reflow ovens to then kind of like solder them down. And so it's pretty automated, but that's because robots are as cheap to run over here as they are in China, so we might as well run them over here, and then we can kind of see, we can oversee what the working conditions are like for all people, and there are still, there are some staff who need to kind of look after these things and do bits and pieces, and so we have them employed in Liverpool, then I'm employed in Shanghai, and I've got nothing against Shanghai, but I live in Liverpool. And so the staff are still here and stuff, and it's not all limited factory and warehouse and things. There is a bit of space that we've given over to Does Toxteth, which is a bit like Does Liverpool, but it's just in Toxteth, because Does Liverpool's getting quite busy because it's doing really well. There's loads of people doing interesting stuff, and companies coming in, using the facilities or being based there. And because not everybody wants to trek all the way into town to do the kind of like playing around and hacking on these sorts of things, Does has just got another little sort of co-working, digital fabricating, kind of hack space workshop thing in the top of here in Toxteth as well. And we're looking at, spreading them out across the rest of the city, I'm sure. So that's kind of, I don't know, just a kind of a thought idea, a bit of a playing around with sort of how things might go and what you might want to do with them. And I mean, I'm not a betting man, but at the same time, I'm betting my entire company on my vision being nearer to reality than appeals. Because, the Internet of Things is one of those kind of growth areas that's becoming bigger, computing power is getting cheaper, you can start to embed it into all sorts of stuff, and I think that it's, there's a real chance that it might take that and be a really kind of great and big sort of way for, like the web was kind of 10, 15 years ago, like computers were in the 80s. It's that sort of a, it's looking like it's going to be massive. There are all sorts, I could have pulled out all sorts of kind of Gartner reports and things that would tell you how many things are connected to stuff, but that doesn't really matter, because I think the Internet of Things is going to be big, and I hope that Liverpool is going to be one of the kind of leading areas of it and a kind of real hotspot in it. It is at the moment because there are very few companies doing it, and I'm one of them. And there are other ones, other people around doing stuff. John's kind of just launched his first Internet of Things product, so we have got some of it, but that's what it's about. It's not because this is a big bet that we're kind of placing, it's because there are some people here who want to chase this. Like, it's not about the council going, oh yes, some government report says the Internet of Things is going to be big, so our strategy is to do the Internet of Things. Right, who does the Internet of Things and how do we persuade them they should move to Liverpool? Like, it's not about that, it's about the fact that, we're already here, and so we're building it. And so, I hope the Internet of Things is big, because I'll do quite well out of it, but hopefully also the city will do well out of it. But it's not, it might not be the Internet of Things, it could be other stuff. It could be, it could be something around open data, because Scraper Wiki are based here in Liverpool. Ross Jones is just over the water. There's just co-founded some open healthcare data kind of group, and so they might and hopefully it's not an either or. Hopefully the Internet of Things will be big and open data will be big, and there'll be a whole load of kind of interesting tech stuff going on. Or maybe it'll be something around kind of podcasting or open source. Podcasting, you've got Dan who's doing radio a bit later on. He's one of the big thing in kind of Linux podcasting. So Don McAllister is also based here, and a big thing in Mac podcasts. But it's about the people, and so it's about what you're passionate about. That's going to kind of take these things forward. And that's what I quite like about Barcamp. I've been sort of thinking back to the last Liverpool Barcamp, which was in December 2008. And it was for that Barcamp that Bubblino got built. Like, Bubblino was born in order to come to the Barcamp, and then he's just done really well ever since. And in the intervening years, so now I sell them to other people, so they get shipped around. They've been to Frankfurt and Halifax and all sorts of different around in London and over to the States, and so there's sort of Bubblini kind of dotted around the world that I'm selling from here in Liverpool. And this just like makes me sort of stupidly proud. I think is the kind of best way to sum it up. I just love the fact that now there are things coming out of next door that I've been producing that have got made in Liverpool by McEwen Limited on the back of them. It's like there is stuff being manufactured in the city, but not that there wasn't ever stuff being manufactured in the city, but I wasn't connected to any of it. And there's more stuff being manufactured in the city now, and it will grow, hopefully. And more stuff will come out like that. And it was also the last Barcamp that I met Andy Goodwin. So like, the last Barcamp's got a lot to answer for, I'm sure Andy will tell you. And without Andy, there wouldn't be Ignite. There wouldn't be a hell of a lot of other interesting stuff going on in the city. It was also, I think, at the last Barcamp that Scraper-Wiki kind of got announced, it was definitely the first time I heard of Scraper-Wiki. Julie can know that, correct me if I'm wrong, but he kind of, and Scraper-Wiki's now a sort of startup, won the Knight Foundation recently, which is a big American journalism kind of award for tech stuff and journalism, and they're doing great things, kind of building ways to kind of play around with data and stuff. And it's also where Tom, Shannon and I kind of hatched plans for Arduino, which is kind of Arduino hack days, and decided that we were going to start running a regular meetup for Arduino users, which then kind of grew into the hack space, and then that grew into us. So like, that's just, there's a load of interesting shit happened at the last one, so I'm really curious about what happens with this one. So, just get out there and then show us your ideas. What is it that you're passionate about? What are you going to build? And how are you going to make the city better? And then, finally, I don't know if anybody can spot the kind of, there's been lots of photos throughout of buildings and stuff, but I don't know if anyone can spot a common thread running through all those photos. You haven't paid attention? Disused, hey! So there you go, and that's it. There's a lot more that I could have put in it, but I didn't need that many slides. But all of the buildings that I've shown are kind of ones that look interesting to me and cool, and as far as I know, they're all just empty. So there's plenty of space for you to go and put your stuff in and build stuff, fill them up with kind of new interesting stuff, and just, and then come talk about it in the next Barcamp and tell us about how well everything's going. Thank you.
So picking up on what both of you have been talking about, this is what I make there. There aren't black holes in the city. I'm from Manchester, and actually the similarity between the two cities is enormous. There are actually creative bubbles, and I think the word disruption is not what's actually happening, but it's actually induction rather than disruption that's happening. The point that you make is you can have a very small group of people who have an enormous effect on the macro system, both in terms of the city, but also in terms of the region. And you said, what are we doing about it? What I'm doing about it is I'm actually working to create a university of transformation. The word university suggests something that's highly sophisticated, and in a certain ways transformation is. But the idea is actually basically what goes on the Barcamps. That instant connection, and there's a conversation, it might be over a sandwich, and it starts something moving. And it doesn't just move within the location, it moves out there and ripples come back. So that's my project, University of Transformation.
Cool.
Well, I've already got interest in America, so that's where I'm seeding it at the moment, simply because of the interest there. I've also had some noises in Manchester, which that's interesting, but I need more than that, because at the moment, I'm fronting it and driving it, which I can do because I used to work at a business school, and I got so pissed off with business teaching that actually what I did was introduce theatre, which went down a wow with the students. My colleagues nearly nailed it to the fucking wall, but it worked.
Adrian, this is my first time back in Liverpool for about 25 years. As a kid, I grew up in the Isle of Man, so Liverpool was sort of like the edge of the known universe, a bright light, big city. When I was 16 and the Tuxteth riots were going on, I sort of wanted to get the boat across and join in. So, anyway, you have this very optimistic future for the Merseyside region, where somehow we're going to dig ourselves out of this situation through tech and product innovation and making and doing and all those traditional skills that we as Brits had. You know, we came through one industrial revolution, which went into decline for well-known reasons, and you seem to be very enthusiastic that somehow we can coagulate again and create a momentum and energy behind making again. What are your thoughts on the sort of initiatives, for example, one that's in the news at the moment is Raspberry Pi, to get kids coding and to teach a whole new tech generation? Do you think that that is an initiative is going to help kickstart a positive movement?
I hope it does. And I guess part of what I was kind of trying to get across is, and I do have a very optimistic kind of tech-led, but that's because I'm a technologist. It's not really about tech, it's about the people. And so the thing that will kind of Raspberry Pi will sort of live and die on the people who are driving it, I think, more than the tech as such. But there's a load of kind of, it's got loads of buzz. Cambridge has got the right sort of connections for that sort of thing to happen. I mean, that's the advantage of Cambridge, in that it's got, you can have this conversation at the pub and find out that, we've got this chip that's lying around, we'll do a deal where we'll sell them at the, like, if you were buying 10 million of them because you're making mobile phones, and we know they're not going to be available, but we'll let you have them at that price, sort of thing, which is cool. Not like that. It's like that's how it can happen, So hopefully that sort of stuff will. I mean, I'm hoping that they open up the I/O pins and stuff. For instance, I'm a hardware hacker, being able to get out the hardware as well as the software, because a lot of the software came from initially was about we'll teach kids to code, which is really good, and that's really useful. There's definitely kind of we need more people who can write little bits of coding, just understand what writing programs and stuff are. But also I'd like it to be able to see kind of doing lots of hardware stuff, because it's going to be like a really nice board for very little money, because they can get the volume discount. But you or I couldn't. If we were going to build something instead.
I can do an Arduino for $25. I can't do anything with an arm on it for that price.
That's it. So it's cool. Hopefully it does.
I think where not just Liverpool but the Northwest has an upside, and I think the fact that I spent quite a long time driving here yesterday is an illustration of that, is that it does have a very active community, and you need to embrace that even more and drive it, because where I'm based, which is Berkshire, we have all of those big companies, and 10 minutes down the road there's Thames Valley Park, and it's got Oracle and Microsoft and on and on and on, but there isn't that community. So I think the upside that the Northwest has is it really does have a very active community, and you need to embrace that as a strength, and that will drive it forward. The fact that I'm sat here today kind of
Well, speaking of community, I'm eating into your. I had to pull back the time until I finished just
right, okay, but is there anything on next?
You're on next.
No, I know, there's nothing on after me, so we're alright.
Mycroft's on that.
Oh, is he?
Yes.